AFR On Demand is brought to you by Breck Golf. Try Beaver Creek today, just 20 minutes from downtown Baton Rouge in the Zachary area. They've got a PGA Tour driving range, a short game practice area, 30 to 40-yard practice shots. It's a great place to chip and putt and practice if you don't have time for a full round. Book your tee time today, golf.breck.org, golf.breck.org.
Matt Moscona.
I'm very important.
After further review.
Say it one more time.
After further review with Matt Moscona.
And here we go.
Live from the Raising Cane studio.
Let's rock!
Hour 2, off we go. Welcome aboard. Glad you're with us. It's AFR. We are live from Don Juan Cigar Bar. Glad to have you hanging out with us here as we send you off into your football weekend. Alondra's on site. Moose, Cassie are back in studio. We're glad to have you hanging out with us here from Don Juan Cigar Bar. Jordan Rodgers, bottom of this hour. He'll be on the call on Saturday from Tiger Stadium with Tom Hart and Cole Kublik. So looking forward to having Jordan with us. Dari Noka will be here in hour number 3. So a ton to do. I'll get you picks on LSU and South Carolina, Saints-Patriots. A lot to do here from Don Juan Cigar Bar. Come hang out with us if you're knocking off work. Spend part of your Friday evening here with us at Don Juan Cigar Bar. So New Orleans Saints try to make it 2 in a row. They'll welcome the Pats into the Superdome on Sunday. New England, a 3.5-point favorite. Some of the big storylines we're following this week, obviously, are some of the interesting injury storylines and a return to health, as Les Miles is wont to say, for some guys, including Chase Young, who it looks like is, in fact, barring some setback between now and Sunday, going to make his season debut for the New Orleans Saints. He was obviously the Saints' highest priced free agent ticket with re-signing him. Suffered the calf injury before week 1, was not put on the short-term IR. Instead, was left on the active roster and missed 5 games. Well, Chase Young was a full participant in Friday's practice. So, again, barring some setback, which, knock on wood, Chase Young will make his season debut, and a good time for it, which means he'll likely be lining up against former LSU Tiger Will Campbell as the Saints' right defensive end against Will Campbell, the left tackle. And Kellen Moore is pretty excited about what Chase Young can add to this Saints defensive line.
Happy to see him out on the field. He deserves it. He's earned it. He's had an excellent week of practice. He's done an excellent job, and certainly there'll be some juice and excitement for him just to get out there. I think it'll bring all the other guys a little more juice as well.
The other thing that Kellen Moore also talked about was just that rotation, right? Because you've had Carl Granderson and Cam Jordan primarily in that spot. Well, now what that gives you is options and a bit of a rotation, as you mentioned on Friday.
Yeah, just more depth. Obviously, with Grando and Cam taking a ton of reps, getting Chase in there will help that rotation a little bit. Chris will still be rolling. And so we feel like, now you got 4 players that all rotate a healthy dose in there. And I think that'll be great to keep those guys fresh and ready for those passing situation rushes.
If you're just looking at defensive snap count, just for context here, okay, about what adding Chase Young to this defense will mean. So Carl Granderson has played 261 defensive snaps. So the Saints as a team, I'm not trying to bore you with math, but so defensively, the Saints have had 326 defensive snaps. Carl Granderson's played 261. Cam Jordan's played 236. When you're looking at ends, the next highest is Chris Rumph with 129, and then Fadil Diggs with 52. That's it. So you have relied so heavily on Carl Granderson and Cam Jordan, who Cam Jordan was an Iron Man for much of his career and never came off the field. But his snap counts had effectively, up until this year, been cut in half because his production had gone down. Adding Chase Young is a major boost to keep you with fresh bodies coming off the edge. And instead of Fadil Diggs and Chris Rumph, getting those reps, and I think Rumph will still have a role and rotate in, but now you're going to keep fresh legs. Maybe Cam Jordan's reps get cut in half, and you give those to Chase Young, which should make you more dynamic coming off the edge. So Chase Young set to play for the New Orleans Saints on Sunday against New England to make his season debut. Now, if we look at the other notable parts of the injury report. No surprise, Isaac Adam, he's out. The hamstring injury, did not practice all week. That means expect to see more of Quincy Riley. Of course, you added a veteran cornerback this week as well. Kamara and John Ridgeway are both questionable. Now, Ridgeway, remember, started the season on PUP. He had his 21-day window open last week, and he was a full participant at practice all week, but they still have him listed as questionable. Kamara is the other interesting one here. So Kamara injured his ankle on Wednesday in practice and then was limited Thursday and Friday. Kellen Moore Friday after practice. Here's the absolute latest on Kamara.
Yeah, he's just been limited the last couple practices. And so other than that, yeah, he's training well. We just got to let it take its full course this week. So he's doing well, though.
I think, and look, Kellen is a man of few words and doesn't give us much to begin with. But if Alvin Kamara is limited in the game, what this likely means now is just more of an opportunity for Kendre Miller, which, by the way, and I know we talk PFF here, to use it as a metric. I say it often. PFF is a metric. It's not the metric. If you go look at the New Orleans Saints season-long grades on offense, there have been 27 players that have taken an offensive snap for New Orleans. And so then you have like grades that break down, like the overall offensive grade, passing grade, pass blocking, run blocking, all that sort of stuff. So the overall offensive grade, the highest graded player on the New Orleans Saints offense, the highest graded player on the New Orleans Saints offense is Kendre Miller with an 80.2. Now, he's at 89 snaps, whereas Kamara, for example, is at 260 snaps. So about 3 times Kamara's had about 3 times as many snaps as Kendre. But when Kendre's been on the field, the point is he has been very effective. His running grade is a 79, which is awesome. Kamara's running grade is a 65.7. Kamara's been good. It goes to show you context. Kendre's one of the best in the NFL at making defenses miss tackles in a lot of these different statistics. So I say often sometimes with PFF, it can either confirm or disconfirm what you think, like what your eyes are telling you. And when you watch Kendre Miller play, it is very clear, like your eyes are telling you he is running fast and strong and powerful. He's explosive. He's made good plays both in the running game and in the return game. And, when you look at Miller statistically outside of like the PFF numbers, Kendre Miller is averaging almost 4.5 yards per carry. And that's it's impressive. I mean, Kamara's at 3.9. So, and that's even without the real explosive play. I mean, Kendre's long run of the season is only 18 yards, same as Alvin, which means he's doing damage in that short and intermediate range. So I think that's fantastic to see. And by the way, that's one of the things Kellen Moore, like as I look at Kellen Moore's sound bites, his answers to questions, 8 seconds, 11 seconds, 15 seconds, 14 seconds, 6 seconds. There's a 20-second answer on here. Like, that's Kellen Moore getting wordy. Well, listen to it. It's about Kendre Miller and what his emergence means for the offense. Kendre's
just doing a phenomenal job, and I think a lot of these really talented run games in this league have 2 backs that are able to kind of balance each other out, and so it's good for Alvin. Alvin's got a lot in the pass game naturally in every week, and so I think having both those guys will give us the versatility and the depth to handle a game, whichever course it takes as far as volume and runs or passes.
Now, there is one very significant injury to keep an eye on the flip side for New England. Running back Antonio Gibson, we knew that he was going to be out with the knee injury. Safety Jalen Hawkins is out. Defensive end Keon White is out. Linebacker Anthony Jennings is out. So they do have some injury issues, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Former LSU Tyler Caleb Chason was limited this week, but was full on Friday, so he'll be a go. But the most interesting one is Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez is emerging as a lockdown corner in the NFL and has been awesome. Well, he suffered a hamstring injury in practice this week. He was a DNP on Wednesday. I'm sorry, he was not on the injury report on Wednesday, suffered the injury. Then Thursday, Friday was limited. He is officially listed for this game as questionable. So if they do not have Christian Gonzalez to lock down one side of the field, that is a massive loss for the New England Patriots. Mike Vrabel on Friday gave the brief update on Christian Gonzalez's status for the game.
Well, Christian will be questionable for the game. We'll continue to monitor him and see where that goes, and try to make a decision at 10:30 Central Time 90 minutes before the game. So that's where we're at, and we'll have to have a plan if he doesn't go, and we'll have a plan if he does go, just like everybody else.
So very non-committal there. And look, for a New Orleans Saints offense that has not been explosive, they have been efficient to the point that they've protected the football with Spencer Rattler, but they have not been explosive. New Orleans is 25th in the NFL in passing offense. I'll remind you, there's 32 teams. They're 25th out of 32. Only 190 pass yards a game. So they have struggled to get going through the air. For context, they're 14th in rushing offense, right in the middle of the NFL. But this is one of those instances where if you take away the opponent's best cornerback and they're already down a starting safety who's out for the game, this might give you some opportunity to make plays in the secondary. So follow that on Sunday whenever they ultimately make the final designations for who's in and who's out. Keep an eye on Christian Gonzalez from New England. Great opportunity for the Saints to go make it 2 in a row there at the Dome. They're at home against New England. As it sits right now, the Pats are a 3.5-point road favorite in New Orleans. All right, it is After Further Review. We're live from Don Juan Cigar Bar, and glad to have you hanging out with us here. We're brought to you by the Williamson Eye Center, 924-2020, 924-2020, or williamsoneye.com, williamsoneye.com. You want to see 2020, call 924-2020 for the Williamson Eye Center. They're awesome. Dr. Blake is amazing. Go have one interaction, one sit-down meeting face-to-face. You'll understand what I've talked about forever. He has such an amazing way of explaining something that is very complex and making it sound very easy and making you very comfortable with your decision with him. One of the things he talks about during procedure, he calls it vocal local. The way he talks to you during the procedure keeps you so calm. I lived it. Dr. Blake did my LASIK 7 years ago, and I couldn't be happier. If you want to ditch contacts and glasses forever, the Williamson Eye Center can help. 924-2020, 924-2020, or williamsoneye.com. That's williamsoneye.com. All right, y'all, it's After Further Review. We're glad you're hanging out with us here. Brian Kelly met with reporters on Thursday and then had his coach's show Thursday night. One final preview before the South Carolina game. A few tidbits, including some key injuries and personnel notes that we'll get to here in just a smidge. And in 17 minutes, Jordan Rodgers will be here with us. Get his thoughts on us, the LSU offense. Same with Lenora Sellers as well. So we'll do that coming up here at the bottom of the hour. Jordan Rodgers, Tom Hart, Cole Kublik, they'll all be on the call Saturday in Tiger Stadium. And Dari Noka, 1 hour from right now as well. Big one. Dari, of course, an OU alum. Big one with the Red River rivalry going down at the Texas State Fair on Saturday. So we'll talk a little SEC with Dari Noka in hour 3. All right, we'll knock out a quick break. Don't you move. Stick around with us here. We'll roll along on AFR.
AFR.
Love telling you about our friends over at Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness. Visit yourgoodwood.com. As a matter of fact, I visited Goodwood Men's Sexual Wellness today. I went over to the facility. I get the testosterone that I take, get it shipped to my house. I usually give myself the injection. Well, it ran out. The new bottle hadn't arrived yet. So went into Goodwood today, got my injection there, and they're so friendly. Mary's awesome. Gabe's awesome. Go see the staff over at Goodwood. And the thing that I'll tell you so many times is if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, if as you've aged, you've at any point thought to yourself, man, I remember what it felt like to wake up and not be in pain. I remember what it felt like to wake up and have great energy. I remember what it felt like to get in the gym and have good workouts and build muscle and burn fat and have energy and libido and all of those things. Like, you can still have that. You can safely and affordably supplement to get to healthy hormone levels to help you feel like your younger self. Goodwood can help. Visit yourgoodwood.com.
After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
I think I've made it pretty clear we have to be more consistent offensively. We have to be more productive, from an offensive standpoint. It's been on again, off again. This needs to be much more consistent in its performance. That's where our offense needs to be. Is it going to be on Saturday? I hope so. But I know the process in terms of the work that we're doing, nothing's up for discussion. We're looking at every facet of our offense to be more consistent and have more of a balanced approach to what we're doing.
Brian Kelly meeting with reporters Thursday, his final media availability before LSU takes on South Carolina. And that really is the crux of what everybody's going to be watching Saturday night in Tiger Stadium. I think we all objectively look and recognize LSU's defense is very good. Special teams has been outstanding this year. Amon Anand has done an amazing job with that special teams unit. Certainly helps to have the personnel with a fourth-year kicker, a kickoff guy that's an automatic touchback, explosive returners, and Xavier Thomas and Berrien Brown. And then with better depth, you've improved your coverage units. So special teams was such an enigma for LSU the first 3 years of the Brian Kelly era, and how they were sort of so bad this year. They're quite good in that third phase. The question is, can they get going offensively? My contention has been I need to see the offensive line improve, because I think that's the first domino. It's a chicken or the egg question. Do you need to throw the ball to set up the run, or do you need to run the ball to set up the pass? Well, if you're trying to run the ball, do you need your offensive line to play better? Which is it? Will throwing the ball better alleviate pressure on the line? There's all these different questions. For my personal opinion is the first domino that needs to fall is the offensive line has to play better. If the offensive line plays better, you'll be able to run the ball more effectively. You'll draw the defense into the box, making them respect the run, which will open up passing lanes for Garrett Nussmeier and these receivers, and you'll be more explosive in the passing game. That's just my contention. So how does that look? And it feels like there's going to be certainly a little bit of a shuffle this week, namely at left guard. Paul Mabenga is officially doubtful on the participation report from the SEC, as LSU has, or availability report, as LSU has filed it with the SEC. So you could have a change there at left guard. And Brian Kelly was asked on Thursday with media, what the options are there at left guard if Paul Mabenga can't go.
Well, right now, Cohen Eccles has got most of the reps there when Paul hasn't been in. And we have a lot of confidence in him. But Karius Kern is repping there as well. So we'll kind of see how that goes. If Paul can't go and, he's doubtful at this point, then that would be the two-man rotation. And if we think that Cohen's handling it, we'll see how that goes on Saturday. But we've repped them both, and they're both ready to play.
Remember, this feels very similar to what happened against Ole Miss, where Weston Davis is your starting right tackle. He gets injured in pregame. They play Karius Kern at right tackle because Chester's unavailable. Remember, prior, Brian Kelly had said Chester was sort of the sixth man. Any of those spots, someone goes out, Chester's the first guy in. We saw it against Clemson. He went in at left tackle for Tyree Adams. We saw it against Louisiana Tech. He went in at center for Braylon Moore. And it would have stood to reason that with Weston Davis suffering that injury pregame, Chester would have been your right tackle against Ole Miss, but Chester was unavailable. So they played Kern. And at halftime of that game, they stuck with Kern. And I asked Brian Kelly earlier in the week why, and he said they thought Kern was playing well, so they said let's let the freshman get out, stay out there and get those reps. So I think it's probably similar here. They'll go with Eccles because Eccles is just quite frankly been your rotating left guard there this year with Paul Mabenga. I mean, both guys have played a good bit of snaps there at left guard. But this will be the first time that we would potentially see Karius Kern at left guard if he gets any run there. We've seen him exclusively at this point in the season at right tackle. So if you do see Kern in there at left guard, that'll be the first time we see him. Now, as I mentioned, Paul Mabenga as of now, forgive me, I'm trying to look up the snap counts here while we do this live. So Paul Mabenga has 220 snaps on the season. Cohen Eccles 149. So they've both played a good bit there at that left guard spot. Every snap that Karius Kern has taken, his 89 snaps on the season have all been at right tackle. So this would potentially be his first time. But it really is going to depend on how Cohen Eccles is playing. If Eccles is playing well, then you stick with Eccles. There's no reason to make a change and upset the apple cart. If Eccles is struggling, I think you see Kern get an opportunity. For what it's worth, Eccles, if you look at the PFF grades, has not had a grade above out of the 50s all season until Ole Miss. Ole Miss was actually his best game of the year by a wide margin. Like, his pass blocking grades were 42, 54, 43, 59, then 84 against Ole Miss. His overall grades, 51, 55, 50, 59, 63 against Ole Miss. So Eccles on the road in a tough spot was pretty good, according to PFF, when your offensive line really struggled. So can he carry that into this game? It's something worth watching. Now, on his radio show on Thursday night, Brian Kelly updated a couple of other players, Caden Durham, and then the one everyone's curious about, which is Garrett Nussmeier. Here was the update on Caden Durham.
I like where Caden Durham was today in practice. And earlier in the week, he ran back to 20 miles an hour, so he got his speed back. Then it's about that cutting. As you all know, as a running back, you've got to be able to stick your foot in the ground and make that decisive cut. He did that today. So I think we'll probably upgrade him as we get closer to game time.
I don't want to minimize. I don't want to place the blame on LSU's inability to run against Ole Miss solely on Caden Durham not being there. However, I do think it is. I think it would be negligent to not acknowledge the absence of your starting running back. Of course that affected you. Of course it affected play call, decision-making, all that sort of stuff when you didn't have Caden Durham and you had freshman Harlem Berry and Juwan Johnson, who 6 weeks ago was playing quarterback. So having Durham back, I'll be curious to see how that might affect play call and strategy in this game. And then, of course, Nussmeier. So here was Kelly on Nussmeier on his radio show Thursday night.
Look, at the end of the day, our quarterback is in a better place than he was a few weeks ago. And, when we look at it, we had him on a pitch count in terms of throwing the football. He was throwing the ball. I got his numbers today. He was throwing the ball with the kind of velocity that, he was last year. So I'm excited about watching Garrett play. He's taken, a lot of the heat because the quarterback always does. But it's 11 players got to play together. And if all 11 are playing and our quarterback, as we know him, is playing up to his level because he's healthy, I'm bullish on the Tigers.
One thing I'll share with you candidly, and texting with a staffer earlier today, this person told me, I'll tell you, said Nussmeier, the text was, let the ball rip yesterday as much as I've seen in the last few weeks. So take that for what it's worth. I know you'll only believe it when you see it. Hopefully we see it Saturday night in Tiger Stadium. All right, it's After Further Review. We are live from Don Juan Cigar Bar. You can meet our friends from Don Juan Cigar Bar tomorrow if you're going to be out at Tiger Stadium tailgating. They'll be there with the Bocock Brothers folks in front of the PMAC, between the PMAC and Tiger Stadium, so pop on by and say hello. We're brought to you by First South Farm Credit, firstsouthland.com, firstsouthland.com. If you're thinking of buying land, your first call should be to First South Farm Credit. That's what Eli Graham did. As a matter of fact, Eli Graham, not only farmer, but also has bought land for his family's home, his personal property as well. And one of the things that stood out when I was talking to Eli was the willingness of the folks at First South Farm Credit to do business darn near anywhere.
They're just a great organization to do business with. Very, very friendly, very helpful. We've met in the middle on the side of the road and done stuff on the hood of a pickup truck before. Just whatever it takes to get it done.
You need to sign papers on the hood of a pickup truck in the middle of a road somewhere in the middle of your farmland, they'll come to you. It's First South Farm Credit, because since 1916, they've helped Louisianians buy land. It's the thing they do, and it's the thing they do better than anyone. It's First South Farm Credit. Visit firstsouthland.com. That's firstsouthland.com for First South Farm Credit. All right, quick break. We'll come back. Jordan Rodgers, he'll be on the call with Tom Hart and Cole Kubelik. He'll be with us next on AFR.
After Further Review. After Further Review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
I don't think it's just tempo. I think it's cutting back on the perfect formations, right? We have a lot of pre-snap motioning and changing the formations. That slows you down a little bit, as well as, from our perspective, not having, some lock calls where let's just call it and let's roll. We've wanted to check a lot of plays at the line of scrimmage, so they have a tendency to slow you down. So where do you go from there? You go to a lot more of offensive plays that are static in their alignment, and they're universal in their call. In other words, regardless of what coverage you get, you're going to be able to run these plays.
Effectively, Brian Kelly saying, call the play, run the play. You take down, please. Thank you. Call the play, run the play. and might simplify things. Jordan Rodgers will be on the call on Saturday night in Tiger Stadium with Tom Hart and Cole Kublik. Good enough to spend a couple of minutes with us here. Hey, Jordan, thanks for the time, man. Great to have you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Just got done talking with the coaches here a couple hours ago, so looking forward to it.
Did you get a sense? Look, you've had the Tigers now a couple of times. Did you get a sense of anything different talking to the staff this time as opposed to the previous time you were in Baton Rouge?
I think it's a continued conversation about the identity of who they want to be on offense. That sound clip you just played from Brian Kelly was echoed to us as well. I think tempo and getting back to using tempo at times is something that this offense wants to do. I think at times, when you have a quarterback that's played a ton of football like Garrett Nussmeier, you want to fix things at the line of scrimmage. You want to get the perfect protection. You want to get the perfect route adjustment or change a combination when you can, when in reality, sometimes being fast and going fast can lead to less mistakes, less thinking, easier rolls for the line of scrimmage, the offensive line, and get your playmakers the ball in space. So I think that's going to be a continued emphasis for the offense, going into South Carolina.
Jordan, can you elaborate just a little more on who going fast might benefit the most? Is it the line with the calls? Is it Nussmeier just gripping and ripping? Like, who does that benefit the most going fast?
Everybody. First and foremost, yes, the offensive line, because the call's not changing, right? Think about as the seconds tick down and Garrett Nussmeier say, hey, re-mic to the backside. Now every offensive lineman's going to, okay, now we're sliding to this guy. And it's that thinking that causes you to hesitate. Right. And I think also from a play calling perspective, going fast, hey, let's just get our playmaker the ball in space. Let's not overthink the perfect play or the perfect concept or what coverage I think. Like, let's just get our guys that are faster than yours the ball quickly. So I think it really benefits everybody. I'm not saying you need to do that all the time, because you still got to allow Garrett Nussmeier to use, what he's so valuable at between the ears and getting you in the right protections at times. But sprinkling it in after a big play, on a first or second down to get some momentum going and just get, Barryon Brown or Aaron Anderson or Chris Hilton the ball in space, I think that's something they got to use as a weapon more frequently.
You all had LSU against Southeastern, and we know the score got out of hand. I'm not super concerned about the score against an FCS team, but one of the things is we've talked so much, Jordan, about Nuss and his physical health, what isn't bothered or whatever. That game, physically, he looked like Garrett Nussmeier. They were stretching the field. He made some throws across his body. Like, it looked right. And then a week later, it didn't against Ole Miss. Where do you fall with how Nuss has looked physically this year?
Not healthy at all. And I think you're starting to understand that that's the reality. And I think when you have an injury like anything abdominal, anything oblique, anything torso with a quarterback, it's not an acute injury. It's more of a usage injury. So like some weeks and if your volume was down in practice a little bit, you can feel a little bit better. And some weeks you're forced to have a bigger volume or maybe a game you tweaked it and there's a setback. So I think it's been a little bit of a roller coaster, but he has not been healthy. And I've said this since really week 2. I don't feel like I had seen Garrett Nussmeier throw the ball 90, 95%. Like when he reared back and needed his fastball, he never had it. And to me, that was a little bit of his superpower last year, is when the pocket broke down, when he was off platform, his ability to create torque and velocity when things broke down was something that I highlighted as, man, this guy is special because of it. You haven't seen that this year. That tells me he hasn't been healthy. Talking to coaches and the pitch count that they had and really shutting him down a little bit and having the bye week to rest, I think is going to bode really well. But you could see it. He's not the same Garrett Nussmeier. The play calling hasn't been the same because of that, because you don't really fully trust his ability to be accurate and push the ball downfield. So everything shrinks. When you can't run the football and you can't stretch a defense vertically, you're in a problem as a play caller. It's not a fun place to be. So I think we're going to see a healthier version. Don't think we're going to see 100%. But because of the bye week, I think he's going to be much healthier, and I hope that means getting back to a little bit of the offense being more of a vertical threat as we all expected it to be coming into the season.
Jordan Rodgers is with us. If you flip it, Jordan, you talk about Lenora Sellers there in Columbia. They're having a lot of the same conversations about what's going on offensively there. So let's just start with sort of an obvious one. What is the biggest thing ailing that offense in Columbia right now?
The lack of a traditional run game where you can hand it off and someone can make a play when it's not perfect. And I think we saw a little bit of a switch or a flip get switched with this offense against Kentucky, where they said, look, Lenore is going to have to be Superman. And I think they wanted to build it so he could be sustainable as a guy they use in the run game a little bit here and there, but a guy that is more of a pocket passer that can make plays when it breaks down. I think that went out the window. And I think you saw last week with Kentucky more designed quarterback runs. I think you're going to see that even more so against LSU. I think the staff is realizing, and Mike Shula, the offensive coordinator, that that's the only way they can win is when Lenoris gets maybe 8 to 10 designed quarterback runs, and then also half the pass plays, get him outside the pocket. So he has a two-way go. If nothing's there, he can take off and run. We saw a ton of that against Kentucky. We saw design runs, boots, naked to get him outside the pocket. I think we're going to see a ton of that against LSU as well.
How do you think the LSU defense matches up against Sellers in that South Carolina offense?
I think it matches up well. This is an offensive line for South Carolina that's been banged up. They've struggled. They've had a bunch of different rotations. I think man-on-man, they match up really, really well. I think the interesting part for me is just continuing to look at this defense and go, how can Blake Baker get the most out of Harold Perkins? Because we're not seeing it. He has 1 sack in his last 9 games. He has three edge pressures since last year. I mean, it's just, you've got to find a way, whether it's moving him or starting him at the line of scrimmage and attacking him with stunts. Time and time again, when I watched the tape last week against Ole Miss, when he did rush the quarterback, he was coming from too much depth he had a back to read, and then once the back went the other way, then he was able to go. He was 2 or 3 steps away from affecting the quarterback like 5 or 6 times. And so I think in a game like this, especially with maybe how well LSU feels they'll match up man-to-man on the outside against South Carolina's receivers, this is not a strength. I think we'll see much more of Harold Perkins in the box around the line of scrimmage and him being able to be used as a weapon. And I think that's what this defense is missing. They're great on coverage on the back end. The defensive line, I think, has been disruptive. I want to see Harold Perkins have more of an impact. I think scheme-wise, he'll have that opportunity this week, and I hope that continues.
Jordan, I want to steal a thought on Missouri and Alabama as well, because look, there's a lot of people at this point, after really impressive wins by Alabama, think they might be the best team in the league. Missouri has looked awesome, but who have they played? Do you have a thought on how things might transpire in Como Saturday morning?
This is a really tough one because I love this Missouri team. I love Ahmad Hardy. I don't think he gets enough credit on the national in the national media for how good he is. I think if he had an A on the side of his helmet, he'd be the Heisman favorite right now, and everybody would know his name. So I think people will start to realize just how good he is. And I love Bo Prabula. I think he has been a great addition coming from Penn State. His mobility, his accuracy, especially on money down, third down, he's been lights out. The problem is this defense has not been tested. And I love Ty Simpson. I think he gets so much credit for how good of a pocket passer he is. But the X factor to me is how good he has been with his legs. Not just running, because he can take off. He's a good athlete. He can take off and hurt you with his legs. But getting outside the pocket and attacking downfield. He has 14 passing first downs outside the pocket. That's the most in the country. He is dangerous when things break down. And so as good as Missouri is, and they got a couple really good guys, Zion Young and Damon Wilson, great pass rushers. But when things break down, when the defensive structure breaks down, that's where, to me, Alabama has the advantage because of how good Ty has been in that situation. But I think it's going to be a really good game. I do think Missouri hasn't been tested, but I think they're going to be ready for this game. I think they match up well, especially with the run game and where Alabama has kind of been giving things up, in chunk plays. Hardy's going to get a few of those, so I think it's going to come down to the wire.
Where are you, Tom, and Cole going to dinner tonight?
Oh man, I'm in Como, Missouri for Nation tomorrow. So they're going to they'll be in Baton Rouge. They're going to Supper Club.
Supper Club is a great sponsor of this show.
It's a great spot. I had it a couple weeks ago. It's fantastic.
It is. Brandon and Mackenzie outdid themselves. They kind of looked at that as like, let's give a gift to Baton Rouge, and it's a freaking phenomenal place.
It almost feels like you're in a Vegas nightclub. Yes. I love it. The food is unbelievable. If it's your birthday, you get a bottle of champagne and sparklers. Like, it doesn't feel like you're in Baton Rouge.
That's exactly what they were doing, man. Like, if you go through the whole thing, like they got the carpet from Holland. Like the wallpaper came from like Spain. Oh, dude, everything is just it's phenomenal. I mean, it's a great place to go. Hey, man, enjoy Nation tomorrow there in Como. It'll be no doubt a great scene, and then it should be a lot of energy in Tiger Stadium tomorrow night, man. Safe travels. Have a great call. We appreciate a few minutes.
Appreciate it.
Of course. That's Jordan Rodgers, good enough to give us a couple of minutes. We appreciate the guy. So I guess he mentioned, I should have known that it was obviously going to be in Como for SC Nation, but he mentioned talking to the LSU coaches. I presume he did those convos remotely in preparation for the game. But it's going to be I'm really interested to see what the atmosphere in Tiger Stadium is going to be. Real quick, I'll give you a thought on that in a second. Let me remind you, let me do this so I stay on time. Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry, lmfj.com, lmfj.com. Gents, if you're thinking of popping the question, Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry has helped Louisianans get engaged for 40 years. And because they have the purchasing power, buying diamonds from some of the finest diamond mines in the world and buying for 10 stores, they're going to get great prices and great value that they can pass along to you. So you go to a box store, one of the big jewelry box stores, you're going to get a cookie cutter model and an impersonal feel. You go to a boutique jeweler, you're going to overpay and the selection's not going to be great. Lee Michaels is that just right. It's like Goldilocks. It's like just right. It's that perfect size where you're going to get the great selection and the great price and the customer service and the local feel. It's Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. lmfj.com. lmfj.com for Lee Michaels Fine Jewelry. I'm curious what the atmosphere is going to be like in Tiger Stadium because, look, the last game day when LSU kicked off, they were ranked 3rd or 4th in the country. They were undefeated. They were very much perceived to be a title contender. Our whole staff here picked LSU, and I don't think that was a homer pick. I picked LSU to lose to Clemson. I'll pick against them. I know Hunt will pick against them. Hester and Flint sometimes have some trouble separating with their heart, but we will. We'll pick against them if we think they're good. Our staff unanimously picked Ole Miss because LSU to beat Ole Miss because Ole Miss is so bad defensively, and they had given up so much. And I think collectively we all thought LSU would be better against a bad defense because Clemson and Florida have good defenses. So some of the offensive struggles made sense, and we were wrong. But you've had now 2 weeks to chew on a disgusting loss, and that taste is in your mouth, and it's just like it's festered for 2 weeks, all of the negativity. So I wonder what the atmosphere is going to be like in Tiger Stadium. The thing I think that's so important to remember from an LSU perspective, and I'm not trying to give you a purple and gold pep talk here, but it's just the reality. No team's going to go undefeated. That's just not a thing that's going to happen anymore. I know Oregon did last year, and then they lost in the Rose Bowl and got blown out by Ohio State. The national champion lost 2 games last year. The national champion lost to a 500 Michigan team. So you're not out of it. You have a loss, and it stings, but you look at what's ahead of you. You're nearly a double-digit favorite in your stadium. Then you go to Vanderbilt, which will be a much better game than Vanderbilt historically would give you, admittedly. And if you win those 2, you come home to play Texas A&M, who, if they take care of business against Florida, A&M's going to come to Baton Rouge as a top 5 team in America, and that is going to be an incredible atmosphere because you're going to have a ton on the line. But to get there, you got to win your next 2. And you're certainly capable. I'm just going to be very interested. And by the way, after Florida, A&M plays Arkansas. So Florida, Arkansas, conceivably, A&M would be coming here undefeated 7-0 and ranked in the top 5 in the country. But if it doesn't look really good tomorrow, I think you have 2 weeks of this negativity about the offense just brooding. And if the offense continues to struggle and they miss deep shots, and I think you're probably going to hear some groans and probably some boos, and it could be negative. It's why I think it's so important this team starts fast. I know Brian Kelly said on Thursday, but they got to get going offensively early in this game. Find a way to dial up a deep shot, hit it, and score early, and give yourself a lead, so that way you can get some positive vibes into the stadium that you can maybe carry into this week, next week against Vanderbilt, and hopefully into what should be a massive game in Baton Rouge in a couple weeks against Texas A&M. But first things first, Tigers and Gamecocks Saturday night in Death Valley. Thanks to Jordan Rodgers. Okay, quick break. We'll come back. Musil do Tigers and the Pros to wrap up hour number 2. We'll do our pick'em segment. Our buddy Chris Marlowe Marler, LouisianaSports.net, our SEC writer, also host of Locked On Gamecocks. He'll be here. We'll do some picks, and we'll get to Dari Noka in 30 minutes from right now. We're glad you're hanging out with us here on a Football Friday edition of AFR Live from Don Juan Cigar Bar.
After further review.
GLO, glowresources.com, glowresources.com, glowresources.com. At Glow Resources, they are complete employer solutions. And by now, you know I say it that way because at Glow Resources, they are not a temp staffing agency. If you're looking for a job, don't call them. That's not what they do. They'll find you. If you're a business owner or someone who works in a business responsible for finding and hiring the right people, Glow Resources wants to talk to you, especially since COVID, where the workforce changed, be it people working remotely, Zoom, the difficulty in finding people that are willing to work. It's been challenging in nearly every industry. Well, Glow Resources conducts some 15,000 interviews over the course of the year. They can help you find the right people to make your business more effective. So check them out online. Start there at GLO. It's glowresources.com, glowresources.com.
After further review with Matt Moscona, presented by Don Juan Cigar Bar.
Wrapping up hour number 2. We're glad you're with us here live from Don Juan Cigar Bar. Hey, make sure you can get by here to Don Juan Cigar Bar. Great crowd on a Friday afternoon, by the way. People knocking off work, coming hanging out. Right next door, remember Don Juan Cigar Company, which is the retail shop. Largest walk-in humidor in the state of Louisiana. So you want to get your sticks for this weekend, come on by Don Juan Cigar Bar here in Town Center. Don Juan Cigar Company right next door. All right, we'll throw it back to Studio Muso. Tigers in the pros.
Tigers in the pros. They still bleed purple and gold. They're just really rich now.
All right, we'll go ahead and we will get started with Thursday night football. Cordell Flott, the New York Giants, made his impact in a big way down the stretch in the fourth quarter. A game-sealing interception of Jalen Hurts for all intents and purposes. He returned that interception 68 yards to set up the insurance score that would ultimately give the Giants their 34-17 victory. He also had 3 stops in the ballgame, including 1 tackle for a loss. Looking ahead to NFL action this weekend, Jamar Chase missed Friday's practice for the Cincinnati Bengals with an illness. It was just a walkthrough. He wasn't there. They sent him home to go get some rest. Zach Taylor, when he met with the media after practice, officially listed Chase as questionable. Not the only Bengal that has been kind of struggling with an illness. They kind of have something going around there. We'll see how that does end up impacting Chase's status. Of course, it'll be Joe Flacco throwing him the football this weekend. And here in the Dome, Kayvon Chason for the Patriots was limited all week at practice with a knee injury, upgraded to a full participant on Friday, and is expected to be ready to rock and roll when the Patriots take on the Saints noon time in the Dome. Chason off to a pretty good start in what's been an up-and-down roller coaster career for him so far in the NFL. 2.5 sacks so far through 5 football games. That is Tigers and Pros.
Got to tell you about Supper Club. We kind of just did that with Jordan Rodgers. Apparently, if you want to dine where the celebs are dining, not that I should necessarily put it out, but you can. Tom Hart and Cole Kubelik will be there tonight at Supper Club. And I mean, where else would you go? You want a world-class dining experience on Perkins Road in Baton Rouge? You go to Supper Club. It's amazing what Brandon and Mackenzie built. The feeling, the vibe. You just heard Jordan Rodgers say it, a guy that's traveled all over the world. It's like you're walking into a Vegas restaurant, a Vegas nightclub. And admittedly, they toned down like the loud music that maybe some people initially early was thought maybe was a little loud, distracting, maybe not perfect for a business meeting, but like the point is they've listened to some of that, so don't let that be a detraction. It's amazing. The entire vibe, the environment is the restaurant is gorgeous. They did it to the nines, but the point is whether you want to go in there and buy a $10,000 bottle of wine, which they have, you want to buy the Japanese Omi beef, which you can only get at like 2 restaurants in the United States of America, or you want a prime cut of steak, a Sagrera cut, you want the best Chilean sea bass or Alaskan king crab legs you'll ever eat in your life, you can get it all at Supper Club. Get your reservation at supperclubbtr.com, supperclubbtr.com, or go tonight because it's open seating at the bar and the bar tables, first come, first serve, so you can still get in at Supper Club. Supperclubbtr.com, supperclubbtr.com. All right, it's After Further Review. We're glad you're hanging with us here live from Don Juan Cigar Bar. We'll knock out our top of the hour break. Sports Center will get you caught up on national headlines. When we come back, our Pick'em segment, our buddy Chris Marlowe will be on site with us here from Don Juan Cigar Bar.
AFR.
As we put a button on hour number 2, always get to remind you about Relief Windows and reliefwindows.com. Energy-efficient replacement windows, beautiful entry doors, hardy plank, vinyl siding. Oh, yeah, they do shutters as well. Remember the siding? I should talk about this more. That hardy plank, that vinyl siding is actually fire-resistant. It'll make your home more energy efficient. It comes finished in whatever color you want, so it won't chip or crack or peel or any of that stuff. So you get that finished in whatever color you want. You were done. Like, you're not painting your house again in 5 years. It's Relief Windows. They do it all. And as Brandon often says at Relief Windows, their number one product is customer satisfaction. He often tells me, as a business owner, you have to be willing to spend your last dollar to make your customer happy. And when that is the mindset of the owner and it permeates the entire organization, every experience you have with Relief Windows is going to be an exemplary experience. It's Relief Windows. Check them out online at reliefwindows.com. That's reliefwindows.com.